Appalachia, a word that evokes a whole passel of reactions. Everything from the beauty of a mountaintop to trailer parks, drugs, and about everything in between. The Appalachian Mountains are indeed the oldest mountains in the world. They once towered 30,000 feet into the air. They stretch from eastern Canada through 14 states all the way to Louisiana. The folks that live in these mountains have faced an unending number of tragic and just plain odd happenings that cry out for the telling. Hello, I'm Larry Bentley, and I was born and raised in these very mountains by a family who themselves were born, raised, and lived for generations in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains. Come with me, and we'll take a look at some of the unending stories that come from within my beloved mountains, and we'll take a look through the eyes of an Appalachian at some outside the area as well. Welcome to Season 5 of Appalachian Murder, Mystery, and Legend. Howdy, my good friends. I hope you're doing well on this Christmas Eve. Every year since I started this endeavor into the unknown, I've done a special Appalachian version of The Night Before Christmas, and this year ain't no different. I've said in the past that I may embellish a bit on some things, but for the most part, these stories come from what actually happened. So sit on back there and let me tell you about the fifth installment of the Appalachian Night Before Christmas, 2025. 'Twas the night before Christmas, as the holiday began. We had to go visit Uncle Richard, who fell off the wagon again. He had his decorations tangled up in a big dog knot, and the spilled eggnog on the floor was slicker than cat snot. The half-burnt cedar tree looked like it'd been in a wreck. He had drag marks on the deck where he'd drug it in from the deck. Aunt Zelma was half naked, sitting on the bed. Yes, she was on the sauce too, and had her thong on her head. Her panties were stapled to the fireplace with care. She was hoping Uncle Richard would sober up and get there. There's no telling where he went or no telling where he'd been, so we looked around the trailer all over again. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a ramshackled sleigh and 4 mangy-ass deer. It had a fat little driver all dressed up in red, with a homebrew in his hand and Zelma's bra on his head. Sure as I'm here, he was sure enough drunk, as he fell from the sleigh and landed on the ground with a thunk. He yelled to his team, "Hey, Bubba, Jack, Stumpy, and Hog." It was then that I saw that the deer were his hunting dog. He'd woke 'em all up from their nice warm beds and tied a bunch of sticks to the top of their heads. He was all soaked up with Old Spice and Brute, though he looked like a bum in his tore-up suit. He staggered past us all, still holding his drink, then went straight to the kitchen and whizzed in the sink. He turned up with a grin that was missing 3 teeth, and let out a belch that smelled like a rotten peach. He wiped off his mouth on his greasy red sleeve and said, "I reckon it's time for gifts before I leave." He didn't have a sack full of toys on his back, just an old grocery poke filled with a nasty-looking snack. He tossed us a log of bologna for all of us to share, and a half-eaten jar of Zelma's special pickle pears. "For Zelma," he yelled, throwing a carton of Pall Malls. Then he tripped over the rug and bounced off 2 walls. Zelma screamed from the bedroom, madder than a wet hen. "Richard, damn it, you've been drinking again." She came stumbling out with a cast-iron pan, intended to waylay her holiday man. He's nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rockers, as he bolted out the door and ripped it off one of the knockers. He fell in the sleigh, which was just an old Ford hood, hitched to them dogs as best as he could. "On, Bubba, on, Stumpy, quit scratching your fleas. Get to moving before Zelma cuts me off at my knees." The dogs started howling and tangling their line, dragging him sideways through the snow, kudzu, and pine. Sparks flew from the rocks as they dragged him away, while he slurred and stuttered like he had something to say. But I heard him exclaim as he slid out of sight, just before crashing into a pole setting off to the right, "Don't call the sheriff, and y'all have a good time. Merry Christmas to all, now pass the moonshine." Thank you so much for your support. I never thought I'd still be here doing this, but we keep growing, and as long as you're here to listen, I'm going to keep telling the stories that need telling. You make all of that possible by just being here to listen. Tell your mom and them to join us every week, and we'll keep going. I'll be taking the normal holiday break, and we'll kick off Season 6 of Appalachian Murder, Mystery, and Legend on January 18th, if I can keep my mouth shut that long. Merry Christmas to you and yours, and I'll see you then.